doesn't matter anymore, depending on what kind of kicks you're kicking. So obviously we work on a ton of kicks, different kicks, and I think he's done a good job of trying to place them where we're asking him to place them. But at the end of the day, we're not going to show any of this stuff, and it's obviously it's a very vanilla game plan, everything that we're doing. Just because you want people to know what you're doing and they can see his steps and all that stuff like that, like we all study, versus our opponents.
How big a moment was that for him, for Moody, the other night?
I mean, it could change his career. It's one of those kicks where, and what I really liked about his response from the 52-yard miss, I believe, I think he showed a lot of character in that moment where he came back and he bounced back and he hit two clutch. The one to tie it, I think, and the one to win it. So, I think he showed the moxie he has and the confidence that he's starting to gain. And I think it was critical for him, and it was awesome to see the kid and how he rebounded in that moment. And, I think what's even better is you see how his teammates reacted around him. And I think that is really, really cool. And I think what a lot of people forget is that, he was injured a lot last year and he went through a tough time and things like that happen in this league, and it's a matter of how you respond. And he faced some adversity and he dug himself out of it, and he's doing a really nice job.
One of the sacrifices he had to make when switching to the two-step was maybe a little bit of distance, but 59 yards would indicate that maybe he's getting more comfortable. What have you seen in terms of maybe just his comfort level and distance with the two-step?
I think, maybe he's lost a little bit, but I don't think that, it's a ton. I think he's done a really good job. I think he's 90+% since we've been here. I think he's responded well to the situations we put him in. We try to create situations for him, and I really think that the two veteran guys that are snapping and holding for him have helped him a bunch too. I think that he's as a group they're responding. Obviously there's some things to clean up as far as the three of us go. The three of them go, and it's something that we can do better all the time. And so it's just a matter of helping him, putting him in good situations, and seeing how he responds. And he's done a great job so far.
With that conversation with Sky Moore, obviously he's very new. He just got here, but he had the big punt return here recently. Any expectation for him to be utilized in the punt return on special teams here with the Niners?
It's so new that it was last night. I'm excited to have him, obviously, because he's a really talented guy. I evaluated him when he was coming out, and there's a reason why he went in, I think the second round, right? And, everything I hear about him is that he's a super good kid, super good pro, and he's a worker. And obviously he had the big return last week for the touchdown, and anytime you can get a guy back there with a bunch of juice, you like it. And so we'll see how this game goes and see where it fits, but I look forward to working with him for sure.
Conversations are you having with Jake when he's going through that kind of roller coaster game?
I put my arm around him and I said, hey, man, we're going to come back to you and you're going to win this game, and put that one away. And I think that's what any good kicker, that's a lot of pressure. And when you miss one early, I think that, you never lose confidence because a kid missed one kick, and that bit of, I think it was 52-yarder or something like that too. So, I think like I said, I think he responded really well, but it's more trying to keep their confidence up and saying, hey, man, one miss doesn't define you. So, rebound and let's see what you got here, and dig yourself out of it, right?
Brant, this morning, Lynch went on KBR and he said that Sky Moore's a dual returner. And I'm just kind of wondering, is that, with the new rules, getting more difficult to find guys who can excel in both kickoff and punt return?
It is, because, it's I would expect to probably return 75+% of our kick returns this year. And so, it's going to be a big difference from last year. And so I think that, as we go to try to find two guys that can really do it, and there's a lot of stuff to clean up that we've been running some really, really basic stuff just so we can see who can play. And, I haven't been happy with the blocking that we've been doing. That definitely needs to improve. Doesn't seem like those guys have a lot of places to go, but we're also not running a ton of schemes and stuff that we'll run in the season. So we'll see how that goes once we get there.
What are the adjustments for now that a college returner is coming into a different return situation? What are the adjustments for that?
Well, I think that the NFL kickers are so much better than the college guys, for one. They have all the kicks from right to left, right on the sidelines. They have the aim right to pull left. They have the banana kicks that they aim over here and the ball spins and it'll drop really quick. They have so many kicks, it's crazy, and they're not used to seeing those, And then you play a guy like last week where he's, that guy's hitting 5-4 hang times, in practice and stuff to us, and the leg talent is quite a bit different than you see in college. So it's a big adjustment coming from from college to the pros, and all the different kicks you get and stuff like that. I think it's a huge adjustment for those guys back there. But Bergen's done a really good job back there catching them, and he's only had 2 opportunities to even return. One's a 28-yarder or whatever it was the first week, and then last week he had a guy right in his lap soon as he caught it, so he didn't have an opportunity. But I think that that's one part of our game. The return phases is I want to see improve since I've seen in the last couple weeks, and definitely the blocking has to get better for sure.
What about the format of the kickoff return? Are the holes different? Is the vision different? The timing different?
I think so. Obviously, from what it used to be, for sure. But I think the guys are starting to get a pretty good feel for it as the more reps that we take and stuff like that. And I always say that the returner is the best blocker that you have, and we're trying to teach them how to set those blocks up and everything like that. And I think that's critical for any young player to learn that. One of the best guys I've ever had is Barrios and Andre Roberts. That would set their blocks up really, really well and then make their cuts off of that. And it's no different than McCaffrey doing it on offense. They, the press and cut and things like that. So, it's very similar in both ways.
Is Derek Canteen kind of an undrafted rookie guy, but he's flashed a couple points on special teams? Is he a guy that can, steal a spot on the 53 if he shows well here?
I don't know how this is all going to shake out, but Canteen, I thought, with several other young kids have showed up really well. And, he's a smart kid. I've moved him around everywhere. I taught him PP in 3 or 4 days, and he went home and studied it and stuff like that, and that's hard to do. And he got in there in a tough situation in the fourth quarter where we had to go in and play because we had injuries and things like that, and he got in and did a good job with it. And, he's a very heady guy, and he's a tackler, and he can run. So, I think he has a future in this league at some point. I really do.
Brian, what makes Saron Neal such a good special teamer? It seems like he was brought here to do that role, and it's hard to see if he's running with 1s or 2s. What makes him a good special teamer?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, I've played against him almost, because he was in our division the whole time, and we couldn't block him. And I think, his overall mindset, and it's the kind of the mindset that we're trying to get here, is that he knows what butters his bread, so to speak, right? And he knows that special teams has been his ticket and for his career, plus a little defense here and there, and he's doing a really nice job, and he's learning the things that we're teaching him, so it's a little adjustment for him, but. I think he's a Pro Bowl caliber guy, in the regular season. And, I've had, a Pro Bowl gunner that had some really big problems with him, couldn't get away from him when he was blocking our gunners and stuff like that on the other side. He's so big and he's long and he's fast, he's strong, and he's been a leader so far in our room. So it's been good to get him here and happy to have him on our side for sure instead of competing against him.
One more, guys. All good?
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Opening up for questions now.
All right, when you get hit to the ground or tumble to the ground in a practice like that so close to the season, does it anger you? Is it just one of those things about football? What's it like? And is there a fear factor, I guess, too?
Nah, I mean, you get angry just because you got to get up off the ground, but it's a part of football. We try to make a conscious effort in practice to stay off the ground, but, I mean, you can't ask guys to practice hard and then, not practice hard enough to where you can't fall. So, just one of the things we got to be conscious as a team to help, cut out the unnecessary people on the ground, but it happens.
What do you think of Connor Colby?
Connor is coming along really well, man. He's I like him. I like him as a draft pick. I like his ability, his size, just a real stoic, laid-back kid, and he's just getting better every day. He's improving.
despite a lot of the new guys that have come to the building, there's a lot of cultural tempos. You, Fred, Kittle, Bosa, you guys are all still here. How have you guys come together to show a lot of the new guys the ropes and how things are done here?
Yeah, I think to answer your question, we pretty much got a guy in every room, every position room, so that we basically take it upon ourselves to uphold the standard to continue to push the culture on to the new guys. But it's not something that we have a collective effort. You just know, Nick got the D-line, I got the O-line, vice versa, Fred and Brock, Kittle, Juice, so forth, so on. So, we really do have a good core nucleus of leaders, and I think it does help us continue to keep the culture in the locker room.
Along with that, Trent, how much do you guys, as veterans, there's all these young guys, and people say it's going to take some time, but you guys don't necessarily have time to wait around. How much is there kind of that? I know there's always urgency, but how much is there that urgency of we got to get these guys as ready to go as quickly as possible because we want to win now?
Yeah, of course, everybody want to win now. Nobody wants to wait, but still got to be conscious of rookies. My rookie year was one of my toughest years. I certainly didn't look like a Pro Bowler. I didn't look like an All-Pro. And that certainly didn't have any bearings on my future. So I try to keep that in mind when the guys come in. Just know it's always a learning curve. There's always going to be maturation involved. And you just got to give them grace. Obviously, you got to help teaching the ropes, but you can't get down on them. You need to encourage them. This is a very tough transition, and not a lot of people can do it and still be productive their first year.
I don't know if you had any reps against Huff, but he's given Pleasance and Burford a ton of problems this summer. Talk about the challenge of blocking a guy that low and that, he's a difficult block, I would imagine.
Yeah, he's definitely a difficult block. And believe it or not, it has nothing to do with his low center of gravity. He's just a very, very, a really, really good pass rusher using his hands, has a really, really good get off the ball, which puts pressure on the guy he's facing, and it makes you make mistakes. And he's so fast and so athletic, and he can capitalize on it. He can bend the edge with the best of them. And, yeah, he's really strong. You wouldn't think a guy that stature would have raw strength, but he does. He plays, played his tail off. I got a lot of respect for him. Glad he's on our team.
After missing a training camp last year, you don't hear a lot of veterans that are sorry about missing camp. But can you see where what you're doing now is going to really help you as opposed to all you missed last year?
Yeah. I think the only way I was able to come in and play is just because was a 15-year vet at that time. Certainly not ideal. You need the work. Even just taking 4 or 5 days off and getting back into practice is there's some rust. So imagine taking months off, having to go back to game speed. So, no, it's definitely not ideal. I'm one of those guys that like to work. I like to be coached. So, I definitely wouldn't recommend missing training camp. You need it. And it's basically the only buffer you got between you and the regular season when all the real bullets start flying.
Trent, Kyle talked day one of training camp about how gung-ho everybody was to get back after last season, all the injuries and stuff. Given all the injuries in the receiver room, what sort of mental toll does that take on a locker room before the season even starts?
Very minimal. It takes a toll when you hear this guy's out for the year, this guy, but, the little dings and stuff like that, obviously it sucks to practice without a lot of guys because obviously we got to make up for those reps. But, you want those guys to take a little time off. You want everybody to come into week one as healthy as possible. So I'm all for guys getting a little ding, taking time to really recover. Because we're going to need them week one. Obviously the preseason is cool. It's fine. A lot of people really need the preseason. But obviously week one is way more important. So as long as those guys, we're going to still be able to get those guys back in some capacity. I usually don't cross my mind too much.
When it comes to Dominic Pony, obviously he took a ding. He was able to start his rookie season in game 1, in week 1 last season. This season, it looks like he may not be able to in week 1. Being that you've somewhat been in a position similar, having injury, being on the line, do you think that that is something that may really cost him or impact him in the step he's able to take when he's able to take the field?
No, I don't. And the only reason I say that is because he's had a great deal of work this offseason, this camp. And he's made tremendous steps. You could tell he really focused this offseason and improvement in little things that Coach challenged him on. So, no, I don't think it affects him as much just because he's had a few weeks of camp and he's kind of already knocked that little summer rust off. So, Pooney's extremely hard worker, and I know he's going to attack the rehab just as he attacks the field. So I expect to get him back fully healthy, ready to go, and not really missing a step.
You're generally only watching him go by you, but Christian McCaffrey looks like he's – do you want to just go ahead on that?
Yeah. Obviously, y'all got eyes like I do. Christian looks fantastic. I mean, he looks like Offensive Player of the Year, Christian. So that's really, really refreshing to see, knowing that, what he had to deal with last year, just a little nicks and knacks and, not being able to do what he loved. To see him out there this year, 100% healthy, treating every play like it's his last, playing with his hair on fire. It really motivates the guys when you got a generational talent like that brings it to work and in practice every day.
So just one more. In recent years, there's been that Super Bowl or bust notion placed on this team. Inside the locker room this year, is that kind of pressure felt, or some of the patience that you mentioned with you guys, does that change?
Yeah. I honestly never remember saying it was Super Bowl or bust, but I don't really approach it like that. Every team is different. This team is different from last year. We got our own certain set of challenges in front of us. I don't look at it as being anything or bust, but obviously we want to be successful. We have the talent to be successful, and there's no greater motivator than, the Super Bowl being here right in our backyard. So obviously we got a long way to go. We got to get to week 1. We need to get some guys back in the lineup. But no, I think this team, for us to maximize our potential, I think we got to focus 1 week at a time. I don't think the Super Bowl should be at the forefront of anybody's mind. I think it should be having the best regular season we possibly can have, then getting into a playoff game, letting it go from there. So that's how I look at it.
Thank you, guys.
Thank y'all.
Practices you've put together since you've been here?
I'd probably say so. Yeah, it's been a pretty strong 3-week stretch. I think a lot of the work is paying off, and I'm getting more comfortable with offense, and I think it's showing.
Ricky, I know you talked about yourself playing Madden a lot last presser. They gave you a 75. Does that motivate you a lot?
Nah, Madden doesn't really motivate me. I mean, obviously I brought it up last week, like I cared about it, but I really don't even play, if I'm being honest. But it is what it is. We'll get it up there soon in the future.
Ricky, you're a young guy trying to establish yourself, but you're running pretty much the example. You're one with all the reps. Is there extra pressure to make sure you do your reps at practice right because you got so many young guys watching you?
I wouldn't say there's extra pressure. I think there's just always pressure, on us, and that's just the business of, the sport that we play and the jobs that we have. Just about how you handle it, and I like to put myself in that mindset, that game mindset, so I feel like I had that same pressure I would out there on game day. So, I'm trying to get used to that in practice and put myself in that environment and go to work every day.
Obviously out of your
The wide
control.
receiver room is so thin. Well, I'm not going to say so thin right now, but you guys are a little thin. Being that that's the case, and you are, like he just said, the number 1 option right now, and probably for the rest of the season, obviously. That said, because of that, do you feel like a urgency or a need to kind of be a leader in the wide receiver room as far as being verbal for the young guys, as far as kind of making sure you're dialed in and the example in every way, shape, and form when it comes to meetings, notes, everything?
I don't know about a more of an urgency. I think I always feel that way, I guess. I always try to be a leader in the room no matter what room I step in. That's just how I was raised. That's how my parents raised me to be. And, I don't think anything changes depending on what the room looks like. Obviously, we got guys like BA still in the room and JJ still in the room. And, those are two leaders in the room, too, that I'm able to, ask questions to still and bounce off of. And, it's really good to have those guys still in the room even though they're out. And hearing feedback from them guys. And then for me, is what can I do? What can I bring to the table, too, as well? So, just keeping that mindset. And then, I think, as far as the receiver room, we were just talking about this after practice. It's us. We looked around and it's like, it's us. Let's go to work regardless of, who's in the room. And, we got a new addition today. So, we're ready to go regardless. It doesn't matter.
Has it been strange, just the amount of change that has gone in that room throughout this camp? You're looking every day and seeing someone new?
Yeah, I think it's just definitely not normal. You know what I mean? It's definitely different. And we all know that, but that's okay. It's not always going to be the same. Life's full of adversity. Life's full of different changes. It's just about how you react, and, what you're going to do from that. We could sit there and be like, okay, we're short of numbers, we're thin, and we can, complain about it, or we can put our heads down and go to work. So I think that's what we're doing. That's what we're going for.
Sorry, piggybacking off of that, with all the injuries, what sort of a mental toll, I know it's not the regular season yet, but what sort of a mental toll does that take on the receiver room?
I think that just goes back to the last question. It's just the way that you think about it. I think perspective is a big thing, especially in my life. And I think, honestly, in everybody else's life, it's just the way you look at things. And I think it's the same thing with the receiver room. It's about the way you look at it. I think it's a blessing to have all the guys that we do have in there right now. And we're ready to roll.
A favorite catch in practice, whether it was the touchdown one today in the corner or just maybe a contested crossing route?
They said I was actually out on that, so I wouldn't count it as a catch. I had to drag my foot, and I didn't drag my foot. So, next time it comes in the game, I better drag that dang foot because I'll be pissed at myself. But I don't know if I have a favorite catch in practice. Shit, whatever ball Brock throws at me, that's my favorite.
That third and long one in Vegas was a pretty good one too, then?
Yeah, that was a good one. It's honestly every catch. I love every catch. It doesn't matter. I can't get enough.
Yesterday you caught one kind of over your head looking back.
Oh, yeah, that was pretty good.
I thought that was a pretty good one. It seems like you and Brock have a real connection. How long does that take to establish? Because it seems like you guys have a pretty good rapport going right now.
Yeah, I think it takes a long time. I think it's just about the time that you put into it, the work that you put into it, and I think it comes down to your intentions, how intentional you are with the work. And I think when you got two guys that are very intentional with their work, it just makes it a lot easier, and we're more efficient with our work. So, I feel like it's Brock used it last time he talked to you guys saying it was natural, and I fully agree with him. I think that we don't really need to talk about it too much no more because it's natural. It's beginning to feel that way, and I'm excited to continue to work with him and keep developing that timing because I think you can never get complacent. You can never, be perfect, and we're always trying to chase that.
Through that off-season work that you guys did together, at what point did it start feeling like that?
Yeah, I don't think there was a point in time where we were like, oh, we got it now. You know what I mean? Like we still don't even think that way right now. Like I think we're still like, okay, every single day we cannot be complacent whatsoever. We got to go to work no matter what it is or how we feel, or if we think that we're having a good day, because maybe that next day we don't have such a good day and we're like, oh crap, what happened? Well, what happened was we didn't have that same mindset. So, I feel like when you always have that mindset of let's go to work and let's get this timing down or whatever it is with our playbook, then it's going to work out itself.
What has Robbie Chosen brought to the mix? What are your impressions of Robbie?
Robbie, he's a good cat. He actually was just talking to us, when we were breaking down at the end, and he was just giving us some words of wisdom. He's obviously, I think this is his 10th year now, and so he's got a lot of experience. He's had a lot of success. He had a year where he went for 1,000 yards. So he's been there. He's done it. He's a burner. He's a speedster. He still has a speed to this day. And he's a really good dude to have in the room that I talk to on a daily basis, and I'm super excited he's in the room and we get to work together.
Winning in a race today.
Huh?
Between you and Robbie, who's winning?
Who's winning in a race? Ooh, that's tough. I like to always take myself, no matter what the competition is. But it's hard to do it against him. He's a true burner. He's really fast, so I think I might give it to him.
All right, thanks, Ricky. Thank you.
Psych.